Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the hidden mechanics of how we map out time when we speak. You know, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of verb tenses in the English language, you absolutely aren't alone. It's like a giant puzzle. But today, we're going to figure out exactly why we say things the way we do, and trust me, it is fascinating.
Okay, let's just kick things off with a question that might totally challenge everything you were taught in high school English class. How many tenses does English actually have? Think about it for a second. You might be guessing 12, or maybe even 16 if you're counting all those complex conditionals.
Well, prepare to be surprised, because linguists argue that English technically only has two true morphological tenses, present and past. That's it, just two. Actually, to be super precise, in a strict linguistic sense, a tense requires a physical change in the base form of the verb itself, like changing the word walk to walked. Literally everything else we normally call a tense is actually built using helper verbs.
So how on earth is that possible? To understand how this works, we really need to peel back the onion and look at the absolute building blocks of verbs. This is a framework known as TAM, which stands for tense, aspect, and mood. It's the underlying framework that truly governs how we express time, duration, and reality, and once you see it, the whole shebang starts making perfect sense.
Here's how those three major components actually play out. Tense simply tells us our position in time, past, present, or future. Aspect tells us about the duration, so is the action ongoing, completed, or maybe a habit? And finally, mood tells us if it's reality, a possibility, or just a wish. When you mix these three ingredients together, you get those complex verb forms we use every single day.
All right, moving on to section 1, the 12 tense matrix. Let's see how this builds into that famous verb grid. You know, instead of looking at this grid as some terrifying list of 12 separate rules you have to memorize, just use these three basic formulas as a kind of cheat code. Step 1, simple forms, just use the basic verb. Step 2, for anything continuous, you always use a form of the verb to be plus an ing verb. And step 3, for anything perfect, always use a form of have plus the third form of the verb, which is the past participle.
And here's where it gets really cool. If you combine these rules, you effortlessly unlock the perfect continuous, making this entire grammar system feel like a highly logical, easily solvable puzzle. You just take have from the perfect rule, add been to satisfy the continuous be rule, and attach your ing verb. Boom! Just like that, you've built the most complex verb structure in English without breaking a sweat.
Section 2, past simple versus present perfect. Let's talk about picking the right tense.
Now, this tackles a massive friction point for a lot of language learners, picking between the past simple and the present perfect. You use the past simple when you've got a definite, totally finished time in the past, like saying in 1995 or yesterday. Basically, the door to the past is securely closed. But you use the present perfect for past actions that remain connected to the present moment, like saying in the last 6 months or so far today. In this case, the door remains wide open.
Let's put that into a real-world perspective. If you say, I didn't have lunch today, using the past simple, it means your usual lunchtime is entirely in the past. The opportunity is gone. But wait, if you say, I haven't had lunch today, using the present perfect, it means it's still daytime and there's actually still a chance to eat. This brilliantly illustrates how a simple verb change tells your listener whether the opportunity is permanently gone or still completely open.
Which brings us to section 3, absolute versus relative time. Let's step beyond the basic rules and explore how we map out chronology.
So, absolute tense simply anchors your action directly to the present moment. It places the event strictly in the past or future relative to right now. For example, if my current moment of speaking is the year 2026, saying John went to the party firmly anchors that action back in 1995 in direct relation to my now.
But then we have relative time, like the past perfect, where we shift that anchor entirely to show the sequence of two past actions. Say it's noon right now. I don't anchor my sentence to noon. Instead, I say, the train had left before I reached the station. I'm anchoring the train's 8 a.m. departure directly to my arrival at 8:15 a.m., like a train leaving before you even showed up. It's a relative timeline happening entirely in the past.
All right, get ready for section 4. Distance, close versus remote.
Okay, this is going to completely reframe how you think about verbs. Linguists suggest this fascinating advanced framework called the theory of distance. They suggest that the present simply means close to us and the past means remote.
And this applies to time, reality, and even social register. When things are happening right now, are highly realistic, or involve informal relationships, we use close present tenses. When things are hypothetical or require polite social distance, we push them away using remote past tenses.
This actually explains a really weird quirk, why newspapers use the present tense for things that clearly happened yesterday. It pulls the event closer to make it feel immediate and shocking. The earthquake is physically in the past, but the writer wants you to feel it now. By using the present tense, kills, they are literally manipulating grammatical distance to grab your attention.
And get this, it also totally explains why we use the past tense for a hypothetical wish happening right now, because we are using grammar to create a remote distance from actual reality. If you say, I wish you were more polite, you're talking about right this second. But because the person is not polite, in reality, you use the past tense, were, to push the idea into the remote distance of unreality. The exact same thing goes for politeness. Asking, could you open the window, instead of can you, adds a polite social distance simply by using the past tense form. It's a real game changer when you think about it.
Section 5. The rule of consistency. Here is how you maintain your anchor.
So, the crucial point here is how we apply all these fascinating mechanics to our everyday communication to ensure absolute clarity. The biggest mistake writers make is establishing a timeline and then accidentally drifting into another one halfway through a thought. It is absolutely vital that you decide on your anchor, past, present, or future, and commit to it.
Basically, unless you have a highly specific, logical reason to shift your anchor in time, you absolutely must maintain a consistent tense to keep your listener oriented. For example, if you write, whenever she goes, she had made a list, you jarringly jump from a close present habit to a remote past perfect action. It's super confusing. The consistent, clear approach is simply, whenever she goes, she makes a list.
So, the next time you sit down to write an email or tell a story, I want you to ask yourself, how are your verb choices secretly revealing your true distance from the events you're describing? Are you pushing things away into the remote past to be polite, or are you pulling them right into the present to make them feel urgent and real? Language isn't just a clock, folks. It's a tool for shaping how we experience the world. Are you just tracking time, or are you manipulating reality? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a whole new perspective on the illusion of tense.